Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's meeting. Today's meeting is filling out the VMCAS application by the Pre-Veterinary Club at Hunter College. I know it only is 5 minutes into the meeting, but for those who aren't currently joining us, we will be recording the meeting and sending the recording out later along with the slides. So if someone does come late, not to worry, you can just look back at that later. So, primarily for this meeting, the table of content will consist of um, first the VMCAS application, second the application cycle, three filling out the application itself, and then four we're going to go ahead and answer any questions that anyone may have. So let's start with the basics. So what are the VMCAS? So the VMCAS stands for the Veterinary Medical College Application Service, and it is a common application that simplifies the process of applying to veterinary school. So if you are looking to apply and become a veterinarian, you are going to have to go ahead and fill out this application. And so once you complete the application, you are going to be able to go ahead and send it to the schools you plan on attending, and the VMCAS will include all the required materials that you need, such as like the prereqs, essays, letters of recommendation, stuff like that. So we'll be going through all of that today. So we put together a application timeline. So primarily prior to applying, a few things we recommend are researching programs. So there are around, I'm pretty sure it's around 31 veterinary schools in the United States. So you're going to want to make sure you research programs, find which ones you want to go to, what they differ in, stuff like that. So you definitely want to research your programs and make sure that you have the number of vet schools you want to go to and know what they each require. You're also going to want to make sure you ask for your official transcripts. So therefore you have all of your grades put together and you know what your well-rounded GPA looks like. You can also begin contacting potential recommenders. So this is for the letters of recommendation. So for example, if you want someone from either Gen Chem or Principles of Biology to write your letters of recommendation, we definitely recommend contacting them either right after you take the class, or it could also be like a year or two after, but make sure that you contact those people before you start your application, just so you know, hey, like, will they write your letters of recommendation? Are they okay with writing it? So it's always good to be contacting them. And then you could also begin drafting your essays. So you can definitely Google online what other people had written, and it can kind of strengthen your essay. So definitely want to make sure that you Google that as well before drafting your essay, just so you can get a good image of what that would look like. So the application itself will open on January 19th. And the first date where you can select programs in your application is actually May 11th. So that's when you can start selecting what colleges you want to apply to, what programs, stuff like that. And then 3 months prior to the deadline, you're going to want to make sure that you create your account, select the veterinary schools that you're looking to go to, and also complete all the sections needed, the recommendation sections. So make sure that you have all of that completed. And also, this is just dates from past cycles, but we will be giving you guys updated dates as to when the 2024 cycle opens, but they also may vary for future, like we said, application cycles. So 10 to 12 weeks prior your deadline, you're going to want to make sure that you send everything in. So send your transcripts and then begin entering coursework as well. So on the VMCAS, it'll kind of break down where you have to go ahead and submit each grade. And then you also have to go ahead and check in with your recommenders to confirm that they received the request. And then 6 to 8 weeks prior to the deadline, so we're kind of getting close to where we have to submit the application, you're going to make sure that you complete and submit the application, review the verification process, and kind of make sure that you have everything that you wanted to include, make sure that nothing is missing, there's no mistakes, make sure that your essays look all good, and then you're going to want to make sure that you submit and monitor your application. So the deadline itself is September 15th. And then mid-October, you are going to have access to the application. Actually, no, you have access to application closes. So you can't apply after mid-October. And like I said, again, the dates may vary, but this is just based on the dates for past VMCAS applications. So in regards to the VMCAS application, some responsibilities you want to make sure that you're doing are checking the status of your application through the application portal and ensuring all materials are submitted by the deadline. So like I said before, you're going to make sure that you have all of the proper materials, so the letters of recommendation, all the experiences inputted that you wanted to do, have your grades put in, and have everything correlated with your transcript. And checking the application status will kind of give you more of an idea of if you're waitlisted or if you're referred or stuff like that, or if you're accepted. Also, you're going to want to make sure that you communicate with both the VMCAS and the admissions office personnel in professional and timely manner. So, for example, if they go ahead and review your application and they want a interview with you, you're going to want to make sure that you go ahead and meet with them and supply like the other stuff that they need. For example, if they need like the date or if you have to schedule that interview, make sure that you are communicating with them. And then also you're going to make sure that you regularly log into your VMCAS application to check for important messages. And lastly, you're going to want to make sure that you provide all required information on supplemental applications and questions accurately by the school-specific deadline. So, like I said before, every school has its specific deadlines. They all differ in their own way. So make sure that you are on top of that for each specific school. So talking about the main sections of the VMCAS, the first section that we're going to speak about is the personal information. So primarily, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the release statement. So the release statement is kind of like an agreement between you and the VMCAS. So you must agree to these terms to submit your application. And it's kind of just like agreeing to the terms, like I said. The biographic information is information on you. And also the contact information is like your name, your legal name, all of that stuff. It's very similar to like high school applications and college applications. So you kind of have to go ahead and restate and confirm all like your identity. They also are going to ask about citizenship information. So if you're a United States citizen or not. They also are going to ask about race and ethnicity, ask for parent guardian information and other information as well. But this is just kind of like the summary of what they are going to ask for personal information. Also, another main section is the academic history. So they're going to want to go ahead and look at high schools that you attended. You're going to have to note that down. Colleges attended, of course, or where you had taking your prerequisites. And you're also going to have to go ahead and do the transcript entry. So you're going to have to enter the transcript that you got or any standardized tests, for example, like the GRE. Also, failure to report an institution may cause your application to be undelivered. So you're going to want to make sure that you are answering each of this section and answering it accurately. Issues with transcripts are the #1 cause for processing delays and missed application deadlines. And if you do miss the deadline, unfortunately, you're going to have to go ahead and wait until the next cycle opens.
Hi, Julia. Sorry, can I interrupt?
Yeah, go ahead.
So for the previous slide, for the transcript entry and the application being undelivered, so I submitted my application in past August, and I had an issue with that because, for example, I e-permitted a class at New York City Tech. So for one of the vet schools, I needed a public speaking class, and unfortunately, Hunter doesn't have one, so I had to take it somewhere else. And when I was entering that in VMCAS, they wanted both it on the Hunter transcript, and they also wanted me to request a transcript from that New York Tech college where I was taking that class at. So, for example, that was what delayed um, my application, but it's fine. Like I got everything done. But just if you're a Hunter student and you're permitting a class, then keep in mind that you have to also submit the transcript not only from Hunter but from the school where you take that e-permit class.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So that is definitely something that is of importance. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that, Kat. But yeah, for example, in the main section, a lot of the stuff that was talked about, that's also stuff you want to make sure that you're on top of, and just so you don't miss the application deadline or have any issues in processing your application. So one of the last things that I'm going to speak about is the main sections as well for the supporting information. So this will include any essays. It'll also include the letters of recommendation. It'll include experiences, which will include like veterinary experience and animal experiences, and also any other achievements that you have and you want to include in your VMCAS.
So for the writing the essay part, for me, it was the most challenging part of the application because since it's only 3,000 characters, it really isn't a lot. It's just around one page. And it's really hard to put everything you want to tell them about yourself in just one page. At first, when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, I'll put this and that. And I didn't really have that much to talk about. But once I actually started gathering information and really concentrating on what's important and putting it into nice words, obviously, it turned out that I had almost 6,000 characters because I also didn't know that spaces also count as characters. So, because I was writing it not in this VMCAS little box, but I was just writing it in Word. So I didn't know that spaces also counted as characters. So I had to make it my personal statement a lot shorter than it actually was. So that personal statement is there to show the committee who you really are and why you want to be a vet and why they should choose you over just a different candidate. So a few tips for writing the personal statement. One can be to explain a moment that kind of showed you that you want to be a vet. Another one, it's to discuss how you can contribute to the profession and patient care. So also if you have just something that you are really dedicated to, and also why you and what characteristics you have that would make you a great candidate. Um, Explain also the third bullet point is kind of similar to the second point. Just also putting it into a little story or giving like a history, your history, like your background, or like an event, something you've gone through that made you a good candidate would be good. And also it's good to show the passion for veterinary medicine in your statement. So they want to see someone who's 100% in it and they want to do vet med for 100% and be dedicated. Another one is to show a meaningful experience with animals. Um, and also if you want to say that, oh, you just love animals and you want it to be of that since you were little, that's kind of something that everyone wants to write and not necessarily something that the committee likes to see, because you want to show them how you're different from everyone else. And that's kind of a thing that everyone mentions in their personal statement. So also avoid repeating information from your transcripts or reference letters, because like I mentioned before, it's only 3,000 characters. So you do not need to mention something that they already can see that you entered in your experience parts, because also the experience parts have little boxes where you describe that experience. So what you did during the time, so you don't really have to explain it more. If there's an event that happened during that experience that, for example, helped you become a better candidate, do you think, then that would be worth mentioning. But just kind of more in general, explaining that experience is not really worth to put in the statement. I think for me, what helped is to actually write about yourself and who you truly are. I'll give you a quick example. So in my personal statement, I told them that, to be honest, I don't really have an event that made me want to be a vet, and I'm fully aware of that. So I just told them, I was just very honest with them and with myself, and try not to make it too perfect as well, because then if you will get an interview, then they will very easily see that the person who wrote the personal statement is actually different from the person they're talking to, either over Zoom or in person. Another thing would be to ask literally anyone to read it and give any critique they want to give you, because people who read those personal statements are not always doctors. Those are people working at vet hospitals, and they might not have, they might not be, yeah, they just might not be doctors. That's what I wanted to say, sorry. So even the normal person, your mom, your friend, your grandpa, grandma, whoever you want to ask, their critique will be very nice, and try to find as many people as you can, because trust me, it will really help, and then it will really make you feel more comfortable. I know it might be weird at first showing people what you wrote, but it's for your own good. And do not wait until the last minute to get started on your statement, because then, like I told you before, you might end up having too much, and then you have to make it shorter, and you're just start to stress yourself about it. And it's very important to start early. And for example, what I did, once I started my application, I created my account and I found out everything about the requirements for the personal statement. I kept a little tab in my notes on my phone, and just sometimes I randomly had a thought, like an idea of something I wanted to put in my personal statement, and I would just do like a little bullet point. Oh, I feel like that would be good to mention, and I just kept a little list in my notes, and proofread. That's all you have to know. There's nothing more I can say about it, I feel like. And just be careful, because the application might time out after an activity. So it's better to just write it in like Word or Google Doc, whatever you're more comfortable with. And then you can always just copy and paste. So here you have a little example of an essay. You can just simply Google VMCAS personal statement example, and it will give you many examples. So I feel I feel like it would take a lot of time if we wanted to read everything, because it's this page and the next one. So if you want to read it, it's going to be available if you access our recorded meeting. But something I wanted to mention about this example is that I actually don't love how that person mentioned their experience. And that's already something that she mentioned in her experiences part. So I feel like that's a really good, it's a, like very good wording and a example of a story that you can put in the personal statement. But I feel like you could sometimes leave out the um, just the further explanation of the experience that she had. So I think, yeah, if you want to read it, then you can access um, our recording. So other than the personal statement, there might or might not be supplemental essays. Some colleges give you just a list of questions that you need to answer. Some tell you to make an account on their supplemental application website. And it varies really. And once you pick a program in VMCAS, then if you click on that program, they tell you all their requirements. So other than the main requirements for all the schools, every single school have something more, or not, because some schools they just require the main part. So as an example here, I have some prompts from Cornell that I had to fill out when I applied, and they were all 300-word limit. And so it was just describe a situation in which your actions have had a significant impact, describe a situation when you have learned from experience, describe a challenge or problem you faced. If you had to face it again, would you do anything differently and why? So those are just questions for them to get to know you more. And I have a little tip here. When I started writing my personal statement, and then I had to decide what to keep and what to leave out because that would exceed the word limit, I used the little stories or just things I mentioned that I left out from my personal statement in this section. So it just helped because I didn't have to spend more time thinking about it. It's more just like recycling ideas. And I think Cornell, from the schools I applied to, Cornell was the only one that had so many, because I'm actually not sure if those are all the questions, if there were more, but I think they were all, that's all of them. Because they do not interview candidates. So I guess that's their part of their interview. So are there any questions? This is just I think the midpoint of our presentation, but does anyone have any questions? You can unmute yourself or write in chat. If not, you can always email us or just ask in the WhatsApp group chat.
All right, if there are no questions, I'm going to continue with the second part of the slideshow. So there's going to be another section on VMCAS that asks for your letters of recommendation. They do this to assess your qualities, characteristics, and capabilities. The people you ask to write your letters of recommendation should be people that do know you well and are able to evaluate you and why you might be good for vet school. They should be able to describe your work ethic and passion and they should have spent some time with you, either supervising you or teaching you. It's definitely helpful to ask for these letters of recommendation in advance, or start thinking about who you are going to ask. Create these relationships with your professors that you're going to ask. You need to submit these letters electronically before the application deadline, which in past years have been September 15th, like we've said before. It might change this year, but they don't make any exceptions for the letters of recommendation, so it's really good, and it'll help you guys out if you get them in early so you don't have to stress about them, because I know we've all had some issues getting in contact with a professor at one point or another, so it's good to get them done early. So you need to submit at least 3 letters of recommendation, but you can submit a maximum of 6. They're going to be submitted by the recommenders themselves, so you don't submit them to the portal. They have to upload them via a special link, so you can't read them and tweak them. And a lot of vet schools are different, so it kind of depends on where you're applying to. But they usually require a letter from a veterinarian that you've worked with, an advisor, faculty member who has taught you, so a professor, a lab TA, anyone you've felt close with throughout your past few years at Hunter, or outside of Hunter, and then a research scientist or other. The other could be like a coach if you're on a athletics team, or anyone else you feel that you're close enough with that knows your work ethic and knows a little bit about you and why you might make a good vet. So there's also going to be an extracurriculars portion of the VMCAS application where you're going to upload all your experiences. And these experiences, they're going to ask you quite a few questions when you're uploading them just to verify that you've done them. So they're going to ask for the supervisor's name, the title of the supervisor, contact information, any information about this experience. They want to be able to contact someone that can verify that you've done this experience. You're going to have to include the dates that you've been doing this, or the range that you've been doing this, the title of the experience, and any additional details, and the average weekly number of hours that you've completed. So like Kat said, I've been finding it really helpful to create a list of all my experiences in the Notes app on my phone, and I've been adding the amount of hours I've been doing, because it's really tricky to go back on all your experiences and start calculating the hours. It's a lot easier when you have them. So it might be something, if you haven't started, it might be good to start now just to help you in the future. So there's going to be a bunch of different types of extracurriculars that you can add into your VMCAS. The first being animal experience with no veterinarian involved. So this could include farm and ranch experience, animal training, dog walking, doggy daycare. All of these activities that didn't have a vet present, you can add onto your application. There is also an employment section where work that you've done that hasn't been related to animals. So working in retail or a restaurant job, any of those work, and all information is good information. They like to see that you're well-rounded, so don't be afraid to add anything in. You can add extracurricular activities, so things you do in school or outside of school, and you can start from high school and go until the present. This can include sports, intramurals, clubs, honor societies, committees, community activities, social activities, fraternities, sororities, certifications, and hobbies. It's best to list from the most recent to the least recent so they can see what you're up to now. There's a place to add your research. So any research you've been doing, it can include any animal and veterinary research or any other field of laboratory-based research. And it's definitely good to mention if the opportunity has allowed you to be published. And then you get to the veterinary experience. So the experience you have under a veterinarian. So this can include any veterinary clinical or health science experiences that took place under the supervision of a veterinarian. This is probably where you're going to get your letters of recommendation from as well that come from a veterinarian. So keep that in mind when you're doing that experience. And then you can add any volunteer work that's not animal related. So any Habitat for Humanity or tutoring or fundraising or blood drives, those all count and they're all great things to put on your application. So in the experience section, it's pretty cool because VMCAS allows you to star your 5 most important experiences. So you can keep that in mind as you're putting in all these experiences, which ones you're going to want to flag as most important. I would recommend flagging ones that you're the most passionate about or put in the most hours about, because in an interview, they might ask you about those ones instead of the ones that you didn't flag. So it's good to be able to speak upon them. And you're also allowed to enter different positions. So if your duties encompass more than one type of experience, you can enter the position in both sections and divide the duties and hours accordingly. After submission, you will be able to add more experiences, but you are not able to update or delete completed experiences. So keep that in mind as you're working more after you complete it. You won't be able to update the hours on the current experience that's in there. And these can be added until mid-October, but then your access to the application is removed. So you can't add anything after that. And then application fees, which is the worst part of the application. So applying through VMCAS, since it's a portal that's like everyone is in, there's going to be an application fee for the first program you apply to of $227. And then each additional program is $124. So it's good to keep that in mind as you're figuring out what schools you want to apply to or how many you want to apply to. So you can start saving since it is pretty expensive. And in addition to these values, some schools individually require supplemental application fees that are sent directly to them. So when you're looking at these schools, make sure that you're looking into their application fees and if you need to send them directly, because that might also delay your application. And then there is an assistant program that VMCAS offers to help you financially with these fees. Unfortunately, a limited number of waivers are given out each year, but they go to qualified applicants. They're first come, first served, and each fee waiver covers only the initial application fee, so just the 227. But it's a good amount, so definitely look into that if you're interested in having some of your fees waived. And then these are resources where we got some information. So the slideshow will be sent out. So if you want to check out these websites, they're really good to look at the timeline and any extra information we didn't go over today. That's all in there. And then please don't forget to fill the attendance form. The link is on the screen. I can put it in the chat as well. But if you guys have any further questions, we would love to answer them. Thanks, Kat. Okay, well, if you guys don't have any questions, feel free to email us. We're always checking the email so we can answer whatever you need. Again, this recording's going to be sent out and the slideshow will be sent out too if you need to rewatch it or get any of the information. The links are really helpful too for questions, so feel free to look at those. If anyone has anything else to say, feel free to say anything right now. If not, I'll end the meeting.